Hey everybody, Regina Andler here, and it is time for Coffee with Regina. And I have my friend Yvonne McCoy with me today. Good morning, Yvonne. Good morning.
Good morning. I am so sorry that I have made you absolutely berserk.
It's quite all right. I know, tech happens, and we took as a tech person, I completely understand tech happens, and that's just the way it is. So it's all good. We're here and we're live. So let me tell everybody before we get into our chat. Let me tell everybody who you are. So Yvonne, she helps entrepreneurs struggling with sporadic sales attract and convert the right clients. Very cool. And instead of chasing transactions, she focuses on building trust and transforming interactions into lasting relationships. Isn't that what we're all about? It's all about that know, like, and trust, right? And
Mhm.
streaming systems for sustainable success. So she had a pivotal moment in 2020 when she realized her business had become a cluttered junk drawer. Don't we all have those? Full of programs, but lacking strategic focus. And that led to the creation of her awesome clients trust journey, a process that brings clarity and alignment and real results. She has a message for everyone, and it's very clear. It is, you don't need to be fixed, you need to be found. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here with you.
It's so awesome because this is one of the things that most of our audience here struggles with. It's all about building those relationships and moving people from, just being a prospect or just following you to actually becoming a client. And I know you excel at that. So tell us in your words a little bit more about what you do.
Well, one of the things that I found is, and I say this as somebody who went through it themselves, right? Is you keep taking these courses, these high ticket courses, and I think we all want the magic pill. I mean, we want it in weight loss, we want it, we want an answer right away. So we're more than willing to follow somebody else's process. Unfortunately, because it's their process, most of the time it does not take into consideration your strengths and your values and the things that you're good at. And one of the stories that I tell is I took a $25,000 course, year-long course, and at the end did not know who my ideal client was, right? And then I went on a free 30-minute phone call and somebody said, "What situation are your clients in?" And I went, "Oh my God, that made perfect sense." Because the other one, I couldn't fit them into a demographic box. But the problem is that it doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're going in the wrong direction. And so
Mm,
if you don't have a really good idea about who you are, what your strengths are, what your clients value, then you're just, hoping that you're going to find somebody who values you and is willing to pay what you're worth. And so that really is the starting point, is to kind of peel the onion, take off all the things that we've been taught and get down to the core of who you really are so that so that you can have fun, you can relax. So what's the point of attracting a relationship when, it's kind of like when you dress up to go on a date, but you never do that, and that person expects you to look like that all the time, then they're going to be really disappointed at some point in time, right? If you
exactly.
show up, I mean, I remember my mom saying this to me when I was a teenager. She was like, "If you would put on a dress, you would find a really nice boy." And I said to her, "Well, mom, if he likes me in my jeans, he's gonna love me in my dress." I mean, you know? And so that's one of the problems, is that, we've been told that we have to have this professional package, or that we have to come across in a certain way, which is not us, which means that we attract clients, if we do, that, we don't really resonate with. And so it's
Exactly.
always a struggle and you never give them your best.
Yeah, and this is why you and I are so totally aligned with each other because, with the unicorn factor and everything that I do, it's the same thing. It's all about finding that unique piece of who you are so
Mhm.
that you show up authentically as you, because that's what we're really talking about. We're talking about authenticity.
Mhm.
Instead of showing up in the dress the way you think they want you to look, you actually show up as you. And when you do that, then you actually start to build a real relationship instead of this false persona that, oh yeah, I always have my makeup on. I'm always in a dress. I'm always in my high heels and stuff like that. If I showed up like that, my clients would be like, who are you?
Yeah.
Because they know that's not me.
Well, just to make this a real story, I had one of my clients be my wingman on a webinar, right? And when we finished it, she goes, "I don't know how to say this to you, but the person that gave that webinar is not the coach that I like working with." She said, "I didn't even recognize you."
Interesting.
And so that was really when I was like, "Okay, it's not just about the pieces, it's about me."
Mhm. Absolutely. Because I think it comes from maybe like, especially for women, I think it comes from like this ingrained thing when we're young that we're supposed to show up a certain way.
Mm.
And we're kind of brought up that way. It was like I come back. My parents were of the age of the be seen but don't be heard kind of thing.
A lot of us were. A lot of us were.
Yeah, and so when you think about how some of us were brought up, especially those of us who are older and in business, right? We still have that stuff in our head. I call it the head trash that is basically holding us back because we think we're supposed to be a certain way. And so that's how we show up. And then, like you said, with your webinar, you show up that way and yet you work with somebody on the side. And so they know you one way, they know the real you. And then you show up at this thing and you're putting on this presentation with this persona of somebody who you think is supposed to be the one giving the presentation. And the people who really know you are like, who is that person?
And you know what, Regina? It goes even deeper than that. I mean, so you've got the layer of stuff that your parents give you. Sit down, be seen, not heard. Don't get a big head. You're not. Don't think you're better than anybody else. That all that kind of stuff. But it also has a historical kind of thing to it too, and that has to do with the evolution from going from an agricultural society to an industrial society, which is how our education was based. And so the idea was, you need to be able to perform and up to a certain standard. So that's how we get the grades and all that kind of stuff. But it also was meant to be so you could follow instructions, you could work in a factory, you could, be one of the people, one of the drones kind of, and so you've got that, in the mix too. I mean, I remember getting an evaluation once and it wasn't as high as I thought it should be. I thought I had worked my behind off. And my boss said to me, "I'm not in the business of, producing superstars. I just want everybody to be, satisfactory." And I was like, "You don't get to pick that for me. You have to tell me what the bar is for being excellent, and then I get to choose if I want to go for it. But if I don't know what the bar is, I don't have a choice." But that whole idea of I just want you to be to satisfy, I mean, I found that really repugnant because it was like saying, you don't have to work real hard, you don't have to be special, you don't have to, and it just, I mean, I think that's also how we're brought up. So it's women, if you're of a certain age, you should always be in the background kind of, and men are more than, at that point, we're more than happy to let you. There's the way you're educated, and then there's your upbringing. So you've got a whole lot of layers to unpack. And I think what's really important is it doesn't happen overnight. Even when you're aware of it, it is so easy to slip back. Something happened the other day, and I said something, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's my mom." It's scary.
It is. I've done it. So I mean, all of that it makes perfect sense to me too, because again, we're so aligned because we're of the same age and stuff like that. So it's we know that, or we're around the same age, and I believe we are. And so when we think about where we came from. I mean, for coaches and consultants that are out there, it's amazing to me how many of them are okay with just settling. So, I've always, I'm Jack Canfield certified, among other things. And in Jack's training at one point, in the Success Principles training, one of the things that he always said was always add and more to your sentences when you're talking about things that you want. And it amazes me how many coaches and consultants that are out there that are like, oh, yeah, I want to make $10,000 a month. I want to make $5,000 a month. And I say, add the add and more, or more. So 10,000 or more, 5,000 or more, because you're basically creating your own limitation, your own ceiling, that excellence. You're basically creating that line where you could actually go much higher than that if you just allow yourself to do it. And why would you settle for something that you don't necessarily really want?
Well, and part of that is kind of the scarcity mindset. I mean, again, that's kind of the norm. I win, you lose. There's not enough to go around. And so, part of what happens is you say, I'll be happy with this, right? Because it's more than I have.
Mhm.
And I might not get more, and I think I jokingly told you about, what I call the phase in entrepreneurship that I call entrepreneurial prostitution. It's like I'll take anything that's coming if the price is right, because I don't think there's anything else out there, and I've got a cash flow problem, and so I just need to do it, right? But I think, if you say there are enough people, there are enough clients that need my service, it's like, it was yesterday. I was telling somebody, I'll put you in my Sunday Scoop, which is my newsletter, and promote you. We need to talk. And they were saying, what's the price for that? And I said, there is no price for that, at least not now. I just want to support you. I want to, expose you to a new audience. I want you to expose me to a new audience. It's just about, you know, giving and helping other people that are in that arena. And I think when you give, not only do you become an expert, but you become a generous expert.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I mean, we talk about providing value and giving value to help build the relationship, because it really is still. I just see so much of it still where it's like in your face sales, and it's that pushing, pushing, pushing
Mhm.
to make a sale instead of actually creating a relationship and bringing people into your world. Now, there's a lot of heart-based entrepreneurs out there now. The revolution is coming with all of us heart-based. We call ourselves heart-based entrepreneurs because we basically lead with the value, and we provide you something of value so we can build the relationship, because we're not looking for one-offs, right? I mean, it's like we're not looking for, hey, come in here, give me your credit card, buy this, and then when you're done, see ya.
Yeah.
It's like we're looking to build client relationships that last for a long time. I mean, I have clients that been clients of mine for over 20 years, and we're not just clients, we're friends,
Mhm. Mhm.
so we build those relationships. What are your thoughts on all that?
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think um, one of my values is that when we leave each other, we're both better off than when we came. And that doesn't mean that there's a sale. It just means either you just enjoyed it or you got an idea or something like that. If that's the bar,
Mhm.
right? Then there's no need to be, pushy or shovey, or, and you can just be yourself. And for me it's exciting because it's always like, well, did you think about doing this? And I can just, get into into areas that are not really my expertise, but just kind of as an outside person. And so those people remember you. Those are the
Exactly.
people that, you're not doing it so they will refer you, but if you give somebody an idea, if you give somebody anything, right? It's so out of the mainstream kind of, right? That even though you're not giving it to them to get something back, typically they do. I mean, I'm surprised at where referrals come from to me. Somebody said, I talked to somebody and you absolutely have to meet you. The two of you are, and it isn't necessarily for sales. It could be you should collaborate or do something else together. But I think especially, I mean, this is probably the right way to be, but especially after COVID, when we were so isolated and things seemed like they were really transactional, we
Mhm.
are all creating connections. And so one of the things I think in terms of the client's trust journey, the be found, I have to put that little plug in and toot my horn, right? So what I've named it is be found the client's trust attraction journey, right?
Mhm.
Is the D stands for delight, deliver, and delight. So that when you meet somebody, there's delight there, right? So just to go through that process just a little bit, you know, I said you don't need to be fixed, you need to be found. And so that's really focus on your strength, the thing that you're good at. There are lots of things that we can do, but does that mean we should do them? Does it mean we want to do them? I mean, I was in the tax business for 15 years. I was really good at it. But if somebody mentions it now, I mean, I just get a lump in my stomach and go, oh God, no, not taxes, right?
I
So
feel the same way about tech.
so, there are things that that you could do, but is it going to be the thing that is really your strength? That when you figure out what your focus is, that means when you're doing outreach and stuff, you're looking in the right places. Like I said, it doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're going in the wrong direction, right?
Exactly.
And then understanding your client's journey. And so one of the things I think that is so important right now is people are not just picking up and buying. It used to be something like 7 contacts you needed. Now you need almost 12. People, I
Right.
find it really interesting. I heard someone say this a long time ago. People come to my workshop 3 times before they buy. But they come the 3rd time, they're ready to buy. And I was like, geez. But I'm finding that very true right now. So to understand what they're going through and give them the permission that it's okay, right? So
Exactly.
whatever the solution that the problem that you're solving for, one of the really important pieces is to let your client know that they're not alone, that they can be, because one of the things we do all the time is go, what's wrong with me? Why didn't I know that? How come I didn't see that? Well, that self flagellation that we go through, right?
It's true.
So giving them permission to see that where they ended up is kind of to be expected, and it's okay. They don't have to stay there, and you can help them uncover their journey. And then, like we were talking about, the end is nurture all your relationships, not just with your clients, but with the other people that you meet. And that I have to say is real. That has been something that is really hard for me because that's where you get into the follow up and stuff, which I am horrible at. And I am really evolving in that area. And my coach said to me, you need to do personal outreach. And my idea of personal outreach is to put, in the automatic thing, put first name. And the other day I finally, about 2 months ago or so, I finally went, okay. And I did make a few phone calls to a couple people, and they were like, oh, I'm so glad to hear from you. Sure, I'll do that for you. I'm like, that was really easy. Do you know? So to really nurture in an authentic way, not just, first name in the email kind of thing, right?
Right.
Like I said, you want to delight, deliver, and delight. I mean, the expectation is that you're going to deliver. Otherwise, why would they buy from you? Right.
Exactly.
But if you delight them before, then there's more chance that they're going to want to be with you. And once you are working with them, if you delight them again, they're going to stay with you. And
Right.
so and then I'll stop this tirade, but I was going to say, as I grow and find things out, I use that to reconnect with clients. So somebody told me about something and I was like, oh, I really like this. And so I sent the book to all my clients,
Uh-huh.
So, that was something that was unexpected. We don't get things in the mail very often. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's those little things that make a difference, right? It's sending that text message saying, "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. How's things going?" If, for maybe some past clients and that kind of thing, or sending a card or sending something else. I am like you with the follow-up is I am so busy on my day-to-day stuff. Sometimes the follow-up, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I was supposed to follow up. I got to get that done."
and
And
so
I
I'll
have to put it
say,
on my task list.
so I'll say to you, that's perfectly natural. Let's see where your skills kick in for a way for you to do it, right? That
Yep.
makes it better. So that's kind of what I'm working on. Where is what are the things that I do on a regular basis anyway, and
Mhm.
stack that on that, follow up. If I do this, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes more.
Right. Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of making a habit of
Mhm.
things. So it's coming up with those tasks that need to be done and making them habit. So when you think about all of the things as entrepreneurs that we have on our plate to do every day, there's stuff that we can outsource, and then there's other stuff that, it needs to come from us. It needs to have that personal touch. And so you think about that sometimes and you're like, okay, well, when am I going to find time to do this? And that yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your thought. I have two things for you.
I was gonna say, you can organize those as tasks, and then as you're organizing those tasks, find out what you can outsource and have somebody else do, and then take those things that you're doing and come up with a plan so that on a regular basis you're getting them done, you're being consistent.
Yeah. So I was going to say, my tech confidence coach, one of the things she talks about all the time is leveraged action. It's like you take the
Mhm.
time to fix it once, and so we just went through my system, and one of the things that we fixed, I changed my scheduler over. And so one of the things we fix is now when I have a podcast and I send out the reminder, all the instructions are in there. So I don't have to send out an additional letter saying, yada 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 yada. It was like, oh my God, we fixed my Google Calendar, so it put automatically in, the settings 1 day and then 1 hour. And it's like, oh my God, do you know how much time I spend doing this? So sometimes your systems can, really, if you do, what she calls the leverage action, you do it once, but it impacts something that you do several times a week.
Yep.
That's a really good thing. The other thing is, and part of my journey is that I was a productivity coach for a while. So, you opened up the bottle. But and if you've listened to me at all, you already saw my be found model. My philosophy is if you can't remember it, you can't use it. I had a lot of training in corporate, but when the crisis hit, my reaction was, what binder was that in? And you just did whatever you did before because you couldn't find it, right? And so, I feel like if you can remember, if I can give you an acronym, and typically if you only do the first or the second step in the acronym, you're okay, because it's like a speed bump, it makes you stop. So my acronym for productivity is productivity ahead. So the A is that you have awareness of the situation that you're in. People, are taught to use something, but that doesn't mean that something is right in every situation. If you have a huge fire, you want the fire department to come. But if you've got a trash can fire, you need a fire extinguisher. So the strategy is you need something to put it out, but you might not need the same thing every time. So, also, how much stuff have I got on my plate? I'm trying to launch a new course, I'm trying to move, I'm trying to, what, be realistic. What can you actually do, right? So that's the situational awareness. The other one is, what can I put on hold? If I push this back for a week, or if I push it back, or I wait, is it going to be that big a deal? So it's kind of prioritizing. You put it on hold. Then the E is, what can I eliminate? You know, I I found, and I'm one of the I have to tell you, junk draw is the perfect analogy for me. I am a hoarder. I come from a family of hoarders. And it is really hard for me to give things away or throw things out. And my sister had a very good analogy. She has almost nothing. She is not she doesn't have an extra speck of dust in her house. Um, but she says, when I give things away, it makes me feel rich, which I think is a really nice way to think about it. But so when I eliminate stuff, I typically try to figure out who could use it. I mean, at one point I was doing adult education, and I must have had a file cabinet full of this stuff that I hadn't touched in years, and then gave it to an adult literacy agency, and they were thrilled.
I bet.
They were just thrilled. So, eliminate doesn't mean that it won't be used ever again, but it just is not in your space. And then we look at automate. And automation does not have to be a technical thing. It just has to be a system to get something done. And some of the, best automations I had were in my family, before we got all this computer stuff. I mean, when my kids got old enough to cook, I cooked on Saturday because I am the queen of the one pot dish, the soup and the casserole. That's me. I like to mix it, put it in, and be done. Right. My husband, on the other hand, is a fantastic cook. So he cooked on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday, we had leftovers. Wednesday, my daughter cooked, and my daughter always cooked pasta. So we call her the queen of pasta, right? Thursday, my son did sloppy joes. And Friday, we had go for yourself, and we cleaned out all the leftovers. Now, that was a system. And so we all kind of knew what our job was and when we wanted to do it, we had to do it, what the shopping list looked for. And there was plenty of variety within that, right? But it wasn't like, oh God, what are we having tonight for dinner, right?
Right.
So, and then the last thing is delegate. And this order is the opposite of what you've been taught, because you've been taught to delegate, automate, eliminate, whatever. But when you do it that way, you are delegating just the piddly stuff. You're not delegating the right stuff. And that's because we've been taught to believe that delegation is about getting stuff off your plate. Delegation is actually training somebody to help you grow your business.
I love that reframe.
It is about somebody who can step in when you're not there and handle situations, right? It is not about, oh, go order this or go get this or whatever. I mean, it just, it is about, and so if you do it right, it takes a little longer, because you have to make sure that the person actually understands what the purpose is of what you're doing. And you have to be open to getting ideas from them, because I can't tell you, especially with women, how many people go, I want another person just like me. No, you don't. You're a mess. You want somebody who's going to help you be less of a mess, right? If you're not detailed oriented, you don't want somebody else who's big picture, because you're both going to miss the details.
Right.
So, that's what one of my models. But and to take it one step further, we are not split personalities. We are not a business person in this box and a person in another box. I believe that the systems that you put in place should work in both places. So the same thing that I told you in terms of your business should also be in terms of your personal life. And vice versa.
So wait a minute. I just heard, if you're a mess in your life, you're probably a mess in your business too.
That's probably true. And you know what else is really bad? And I have a perfect example of this, is that we compensate for our messes. We've been in it so long, we don't even realize we have it. So that I have been going through this thing, this eye thing, and just had cataract surgery. I cannot tell you how much I compensated for not seeing out of my right eye. I cannot tell you the colors that I could not see. I mean, the one cataracts typically come on very slowly, but I also had a version that came on really fast. It was like within 6 weeks, I suddenly lost the eye, the sight in my eye.
Wow.
And for like all the time before, since the first of the year, I've been saying my lipstick is not red. Why is my lipstick not red? I've been putting on the same lipstick, but it's not red anymore, right? And why is my makeup lopsided? I got more on one side than the other, right? And my husband's like, how come you didn't see that? And because I couldn't see out of my right eye, I was cocking my head and looking out of my left. And it's like, I'm like just totally amazed. Everything that, I have a watch band that he gave me for Christmas that I swore was gray, and it's actually blue.
Wow.
And my lipstick is red again, and I did nothing but get so we compensate for our messes. It's like, this is the way it's been. This is the way I am.
I'm writing down right now, because that was brilliant, because, it comes down to, are you seeing the whole picture? And sometimes we think we're seeing the whole picture. So you're looking in the mirror going, I think I'm seeing the whole picture, and I'm not quite sure. Something doesn't look quite right there, but I don't know what it is because I can't see out of one of my eyes. So you're not thinking I'm not seeing the whole picture. You're thinking this is what I'm seeing, but
Yeah.
you're really not seeing the whole picture.
And that's exactly why people need an outside perspective, whether it's a peer group, whether it's a coach, whether it's whatever. I mean, I heard this guy who was a really talented academic person, and he went on about this whole thing about outside perspective and da, 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 and he ended it up by saying, "You need somebody to tell you you've got spinach in your teeth."
Yes,
And I was
absolutely.
like, "That's it. You need, and we all have blind spots. I mean, you do. And so it's you don't know what you don't know."
That is so true. And believe it or not, I mean, we could talk for like hours, I'm sure, because I know we can, but we are out of time. And before we're finished, I do want you to talk about you have this really cool free 5-day challenge. And what is it? What does it do for people? And how can they get it?
Okay, so I'm sure that the link is going to be in the in the notes, right? Oh,
Yes,
there it
it's right
is.
there.
So 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 one of my favorite things is that so many programs start with who's your ideal client. If you can't figure that out, then you're just stuck, right? And I call it your right client. I hate the marketing ideal client. And so this course starts with, let's talk about the clients that you've had in the past that you really like and why you like them. And more importantly, what did they get from you that they didn't expect? Because that's your unique power,
Hmm.
the things that you delivered that they are not expecting. And so that is the first chapter. So if you don't do any of the rest of it, do the first day. And then we work backwards because there's a process by why as how your client gets to you. First, they have to realize that there's a problem, then they have to acknowledge that they have the problem, then they have to be willing to investigate, and then they get their needs met. Well, we start with getting their needs met with the clients that you've already had. And how do they investigate? We do it, we reverse engineer it, and we break it down into 5 days. And by the time you're finished, you are going to have a new introduction to say, if you're going on networking or whatever, that highlights your unique power, because most of us don't have that, and so our clients can't find us. It's a
Mm,
little teeny piece, like 20 minutes a day for 5 days.
that is awesome. And how is it delivered?
It comes directly to your mailbox, so you don't have to worry about time and issues. It gets delivered right to you. And at the end of that, you can book a call and I will help. Or if you're having trouble, you can book a call and I would be happy to walk you through the problem you're having.
And I know how awesomely generous you are with your time as well. So that sounds absolutely amazing. I know because I hadn't seen the link or I hadn't looked at the link. You know, both of us are like crazy busy. And so I literally just signed up. So I just got the first email. And so I'm really looking forward to checking out all of the details you have in it because we kind of do the same thing, but we do them a little bit different. And we have our own unique, we know our unique aspect of it, of what we do. And so it really helps when people, even people that you think are competitors, they aren't. I don't believe in competitors
No,
because everybody has their unique thing that they do. So sure, you're a business consultant, I'm a business consultant, but you know what? We do things differently, and that attracts a different type of client.
and I have a very good friend that I talk to, business friend, personal friend I talk to every day. And I can't tell you how many times I'll come back to you and I go, I know you want to smack me because I know you've told me this so many times, but I just heard so and so say it and now I got it.
Right? I mean, and sometimes that's it. So I mean, it's great, which is why I'm so looking forward to checking out your 5 days because it's going to be awesome. I know it is because I know you. So if I'm going to make sure that it's in the comments underneath all of these. Remember, we are streaming live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. So I'm going to make sure that this link is underneath each one of those recordings. So anybody who goes out, click on it. It's free. It's a 5-day challenge. It comes via email. It's on demand. You don't even have to like show up at a specific time. How easy can this be?
That's what I tried to make it so that it fit into your schedule and you had no excuse.
That's exactly it. No excuses. Check this out. 5-day challenge. It's free. It's from Yvonne. Yvonne is one of the most generous people I have ever met in my life.
Thank you, and I can say the same about you as well, and patient, and patient.
So, thank you so much for being here today. I absolutely enjoyed this conversation. Oh my gosh, there was so many gold nuggets here.
Let us make sure we keep coming up with these gold nuggets to share with each other and our
Absolutely.
audience.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Yvonne. And we will see you all next time on Coffee with Regina. Bye for
Thank you.
now.
Bye.